All right, folks. So it looks like we've avoided a railroad workers union strike for the time being. Actually, let me take that back. Let me take that back. Let me talk to the railroad workers real quick because I want to let you guys know exactly where you stand. And perhaps maybe this hasn't been made clear to you based on the events that have transpired and what has gone down, but you are totally screwed from this moment forward. You were actually screwed before, you just didn't know it because they were trying to pretend like they were negotiating and working with you. But at the end of the day, it is all said and done. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, sure, there were contract negotiations. Sure, 8 out of 12 unions agreed to the contract negotiations, but 4 out of 12 did not. And those 4 out of 12 made up a greater percentage of actual union railway freight workers than the other 8. So the majority lost, the minority won. And with that being said, the government won, the businesses won, the CEOs won, the Warren Buffetts won, the CSXs, the Union Pacifics, the Norfolk Southerns, the BNSFs, they won, okay? Rail unions look to next contract talks as Biden signs agreement. Folks, you weren't even in the game, okay? So you think, all right, well, we got our asses handed to us on this last negotiation. It took 3 years for us to even come close to, some reasonable, amicable, contract solution between the railroad workers union and the railroad companies, only to end up not getting what you deserved and removing or seeing your rights just stripped away from you, just gone. Biden comes in and says, nope. You go on strike, you go to jail. Okay. I got a comment here from a subscriber and it says, we got the back pay this week. It wouldn't surprise me if some of the railroaders quit. My back pay was only $10,000 take home. I can't quit off that. And I'm over halfway out the door. So I'll be back at work tomorrow. They know they got you. They know they got you right where they want you. They got you by the cojones, okay? They got you and there's nothing you can do about it for fear of losing your income, losing your retirement, losing your benefits, just overall fear in general. And at that, you're in fear of actually being at work because you're under a microscope and going to be reprimanded and possibly retaliated against for any possible error or mistake or just for being human. So what does this mean? What does this really mean in the grand scheme of things? Well, folks, rail unions are looking to next contract talks. Sick leave remains an issue for some workers, and unions are eager to start talks for 2025. Folks, if it took what it took to get to the point of which we are today in 2022 going into 2023, what do you think is going to happen for 2025? What do you think is going to happen for 2025? Okay, perhaps maybe Trump's back in office in 2025 and he wouldn't sell you out like Biden did. But that's a big maybe. That's a big if. And you have to understand and realize that all these politicians are in bed with these major companies, especially those that are tied in tremendously to the U.S. economy and supply chain, folks. Now, I know a lot of you guys are thinking, Kevin, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't be trusted. You're wearing sunglasses indoors. I don't care. I don't work for the railroads. I don't work for the railroad unions. They don't have me by the balls and I can do whatever I want whenever I want. So whatever, say what you want. But I can tell you right now, if you do, or anyone you know does, or a loved one, or a family member, or a friend, or a spouse, or a husband, or a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whatever it may be, if they work for the railroad unions, if they're a union employee, they have no leg to stand on. They're going to be overworked and underpaid, underappreciated. Their quality of life is going to be in the toilet. It's going to be worse than it was before, worse than it is now, and continuously get worse as time goes on. How many folks work for the railroad unions and worked on Christmas? How many folks work for the railroad unions and worked on Thanksgiving? How many folks work for the railroad unions and are going to work on New Year's? And none of that is appreciated, let alone if you had to call in sick for a life or death emergency, you had better hope you died, because if you make it through and you come back to work, you're going to have points against you and possibly lose a week's worth of pay as retaliation. Now, the pay is what's most important. The money is what it's all about, folks. Now, I done told you before, and I'll tell you again, because perhaps maybe some of y'all weren't listening when I told you the first time. Patreon.com/Kevin247. We over here making money, okay? Now, if you're thinking to yourself, what am I going to do? I'm stuck. I'll be back at work. Like the comment said, I'll be back at work. I got my back pay, but I'll be back at work. You know your back's against the wall. You know you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You know you have very limited options. So if you're not doing something on the side to begin producing income on the side, begin building businesses, creating passive income streams, building out your investments, you are ultimately doomed to the fate of the terrible life that can only come from the railroad, which will probably lead to serious healthcare issues, serious health problems. And if you're fortunate enough to be in a relationship, that relationship will probably be tarnished, and you will probably see a breakup and or a divorce, probably a very nasty divorce, because guess what? You won't be able to attend the court hearings and the meetings with the attorneys. So ultimately, you'll forfeit any and everything that you have possibly worked to gain while giving your life to the railroads. Now, what's most important here is what's in this Yeti cup. Tasty beverage. Shout out to Squirrel Tribe for making almost the perfect margarita. But workers, railroad union workers, I want you to pay close attention, because what happened is happening across the board, and you are no exception. Goldman Sachs has just released the announcement that they are reevaluating the bonus structure, the bonus payment structure for their employees worldwide. Now, what does this have to do? What does Goldman Sachs have to do with BNSF? What does Goldman Sachs have to do with Warren Buffett? What does Goldman Sachs have to do with CSX and Norfolk Southern? It is a clear indication of the change and the shift that businesses are making as a result of the effects of the post-pandemic recovery from the overall economy to get things back on track, no pun intended, and can further gain control of the money and the employees. Now, here's what happens. Goldman Sachs has made the announcement that the bonus structure is now based on the entire company and not the specific branch, and most importantly, not the employee. So railroad workers, railroad union employees who think that they just, struck it rich and got their back pay from these long, lengthy, multiple 2, 3, 4, 5-year contract negotiations to get what money was owed to them, which if they would have had this money originally when they were supposed to have it, and they could have invested it into real estate, into stocks, into crypto, they would have seen tremendous gains and would have been making serious returns on their investments, instead of being left without and now being fed some scraps from the kitchen table. Your money's no good here anymore. Where are you going to put it? Which is why we discuss the most effective ways and methods of turning your money into more money now being more difficult and harder than ever before. Folks, patreon.com/Kevin247. Now, with that being said, you got your money, you got your back pay. The contract negotiations for 2025 are going to extend into 2026, into 2027, perhaps maybe into 2028. They know they got you. They know they have Congress and the Senate, and more than likely whatever president it may be at the time, on their side. And they're going to take a page out of Goldman Sachs' book, and they're going to redo and restructure and renegotiate the bonus structure based on the company's overall performance, which is ultimately going to see a reduction in the amount that you see as an employee, as a worker, as a union railway freight worker moving forward. Folks, they're not stupid. They didn't get in this position and have these enormous levels of wealth by allowing the employees to run control of the company and take all the money. Not going to happen. Now, you have a few options, but let's just say you have two. One, let's say you had three. The first option is you can continue doing what you're doing, live day by day, take it on the chin, grin and bear it, bend over. Maybe they'll use some Vaseline. Hopefully, it is what it is. The second option would be push back, fight, threaten strikes, negotiate contracts, only to know that at the end of the day, odds are you're going to get a worse deal than what you had before. But then the third option, the last option, the third option is for you to actually take control, take action, do something. Don't just stand by and be the railroad's little biatch, and take control of your income, take control of your finances, take control of your investments, start building small businesses on the side, start building passive income streams, additional income streams, so that when the time comes, you can tell them that they can take the job and they can shove it.